Metro Exodus is a game of immersion and a game of details. A game that does everything in its power to insert you and make you feel its Russian apocalyptic world. You play as Artyom, which is the best name ever. Artyom, a ranger that has lived most of his life in the metros of Moscow, hence the name. It's now the third game in the series, and where once was a game mostly about being in the underground, it is now an open world game. Ish. And that's something I want to touch on throughout this review. The open world and how and why the developers decided to go this route. I've loved the Metro series since the original, even with all of its technical and other issues which are still present here in Exodus, and I will talk about them momentarily. So it's because of these reasons, despite me loving the series, this game included, I still have to point out everything the game has done wrong, so that hopefully in the future it will get better. This doesn't feel like a Metro game, or a Metro game without Metros is probably something you saw or heard going around, which is fair enough. But the way I saw it was that eventually the story would go outside of the Metros, and well, I love open world games, so it can't be that bad. But was it too early to go this route? Well, one thing that the open world provides is eye candy. The graphics are beautiful when it comes to lighting effects, reflections, the overall day and night cycle, and the weather system make the game look stunning at various times of day, from a sandstorm to a blizzard, from nights to mornings. It can be breathtaking and, well, photorealistic at times, especially when you can crank it up to max settings with all the fancy NVIDIA effects, and where RTX actually looks worthwhile. Just too bad barely anything can run with it on, but graphics is always something the series have done right. Even character models have been improved dramatically this time around. Only the animations, especially the facial animations, still look very janky, and we'll get to the janky aspect of the game in a minute. However, Exodus has some weird graphical disparities when it comes to textures and other small details. In one moment, you might be looking at this amazing looking weather effect or lighting, and then you look down to loot something and there's this gross and out of place texture that seems to come straight out of 2012. And this is found constantly throughout the game. These really low resolution textures that pop out, weakening the overall scene and honestly breaking a little bit the overall immersion the game so much sets in front of you. And speaking of which, this leads to the overall awful PC port. Metro has been primarily a PC series. It has sold the most on PC as well, at least until it went exclusive to Epic, but we're not gonna touch on that now. The PC port has many flaws. For one, there's no FOV slider in an FPS game, which I believe the previous titles don't as well, but that doesn't justify it. It should have it, period. Now, you can change it in the game's files, but even going from 60 to 75 as I did breaks many of the game features, such as introducing clipping, and other camera effects simply won't work right. The graphical options are also terrible, with only preset options and the NVIDIA effects. The menus are also clunky to use on a mouse and keyboard, and clearly intended for a controller, with these huge icons, weird placements, and a lot of hold key to perform actions. Nevertheless, the atmosphere in this game is just off the charts. It has a slow start and a long scripted tutorial, but when you get to the first open area, it's just beautiful. And not just when it comes to the graphical fidelity, but the sounds as well really makes you feel that you are in this world. So when you combine this with the game's presentation as a first-person game, the minimal UI or none at all when playing on Ranger mode difficulty or just changing in the settings, the fact that everything that you do is in-game, like checking the map, equipping a gas mask, you actually see it in the game. You see your character holding a map. You see the mask going on your character's face. You see it getting dirty. You can wipe it clean with a key press. It can break as it gets damaged, allowing you to seal it, or seeing the radiation meter or gas mask filter timer or even a compass. all on your wristband. The incorporation of a lot of these UI elements into the actual game, in combination with the game's graphics, makes you feel inside of the game. It makes you feel like you're actually there. Like at times, the scratches on my mask, I wasn't sure it was the mask itself or my monitor. Then on top of all of this, there's the survival elements of it, which are affected by the difficulty that you set it on, like your flashlight needs to be charged, using medkits, gas mask filters, or the radiated, non-breathable areas, low ammunition, equipping a lighter to burn off spider webs, or how your weapons, like your mask, require maintenance, or more specifically can get dirty, like getting mud or sand, depending where you've been in the world. And this happens dynamically. You actually see it happen over time if you pay close attention. So makes those weather events, or even the places that you go, not only a visual feature, but one that does affect gameplay, as a dirty weapon can often jam, requiring you to hit the reload key so you keep on shooting. And in the middle of a fight with mutants, well, won't be optimal. So now you have to keep it in a good shape by accessing the workbenches in safe areas throughout the world to clean them or repair your mask. This is when the crafting system comes into play as well. Throughout the world, you're gonna come across two main materials, chemicals and mechanical parts, which can be found on a variety of objects or by dismantling enemy weapons or even your own resources. So in these workbenches, you will be able to use them to craft medkits, filters, set bullets, or other tools like throwing knives or grenades. More about those in a minute. All with these two materials. So a lot of the time you come up with choices and decisions to make, such as should I make a medkit or bullets or clean my weapon. You can also upgrade your weapons with this makeshift upgrades, which you can get off enemy weapons most of the time as you dismantle, or even gear slots like a more powerful gas mask or a suit of armor that adds extra protection and ammo, but I want to delve more into that later on. Now, you do have a backpack which functions as a workbench with some limitations, so if you run out of medkits while out and about, you can craft them anytime you want, and like everything else, you see this in-game animation of you opening the backpack, which is really cool, but as every game that employs all these realistic animations, like say Red Dead Redemption 2, seeing them over and over again can get boring at times. Thankfully, most of these are quite fast and aren't like 10 minutes to skin an animal. So all of these components is now adding tension to the game. Bullet count, filters, medkits, gas mask durability, weapon durability, crafting materials, on top of how all of that is presented in the game in an animated and immersive manner, and how dangerous the world can be, it grows into an amazing and unique experience. But a lot of these mechanics are borrowed by the previous titles, and as such, we go back to the main topic of, does the open world areas enhances or lessens this experience? Well, yes and no. There's three main open areas in the game, all of which are accessed as you progress through the game by train, the Aurora, and seemingly connected by seasons. This is your base of operations, pretty much, and a lot of what you do is about the Aurora in order to reach your destination. You can sit at your desk and look through your notebook, which happens to be like the game's codex, again done in a very immersive way. You can listen to the radio, and this is where a lot of character development is made. And I was just going to say, and I won't talk too much about this due to spoilers, but the overall story is great. There's amazing characters, tons of dialogue, a lot of these little moments that you can participate in a highly immersive way, an entertaining way, like smoking, drinking, playing the guitar while interacting with the characters, which makes you care about them even more. And the overall story is treated very maturely. But it's also not forced upon you. A lot of the dialogue is optional and triggered by just being close to someone, even enemies. That said, the English voice acting and facial animation are goddamn dreadful and feel out of place sometimes.
The old man sent me out as a forward sentry, told me that I was to sit tight and under no circumstances look for any action. So I just had a front row seat watching you there. And so you subdue the occupation forces peacefully, with a holy cross and a prayer. Anna has already reported on the cult.
You can change the voice acting to Russian, which is fine, but still not optimal, and facial animations really need some work to match their model fidelity. The fact that Artyom does not talk also gets to me, because we do have a voice. We hear him talk as he summarizes what's going on during the loading screens, but in such immersive game, I'm of the opinion that this is not a criticism, that giving Artyom an actual voice throughout the game would make it even better. Anyway, the first big area that you get to is great. There's no doubt about that. It looks amazing, it sounds amazing. There's still a great atmosphere, but coming out of the other Metro games is going to be a bit of a shock. No longer there's that claustrophobic feelings or anxiety almost when traversing the levels. It feels a little safer in a way. Now, it's still really fun and dangerous to go through, like coming upon a pack of mutants or driving this boat. Yes, you can use boats and other vehicles, which handle fairly well, and have these lobster creatures jump at you, Far Cry style. Seriously, I hated those things. But besides the danger the elements can present and how everything can affect your weapons and even visibility, the gameplay is the same as the previous Metro games, so in many ways it feels there's only the illusion of an open world. Let me explain. This world isn't filled with content in the same way as Far Cry or other open world games are, which personally I'm glad. There's no need to bloat the game with so many activities that Ubisoft seems to have a fetish on. But what you do here is very simple. You explore, but the exploration is very limited by getting to the nooks and crannies of areas for the crafting materials and other useful resources like bullets, and of course, do the objectives. That's it. There's really nothing else you can do. You don't come across, say, metro-like areas to explore, akin to, say, caves, optional ones I mean, or interesting places or people that might give you an optional objective. Sure, there's optional stuff. Both the desert area, Caspian Sea, and the snowy area, Volga, had optional objectives like going to a bandit camp to clean it out, or get a teddy bear, or look for resources or upgrades to your weapons or gear, but most of them were on the way to the main objective anyway, so most likely you will do them one way or another. So when you really look at it like that, the open world gameplay is much like the other enclosed Metro games, exploring nooks and crannies and following objectives. So what's the point? What is the open world really adding besides eye candy and weather hazards? Not much, right? Don't get me wrong, on a personal level, I loved the open world, but looking at it objectively, the open areas don't really do much. They just feel like a large corridor. Now, when engaging a bandit camp or a monster's lair, sure, there's more options of how to approach them, but not by much. Each area did present different enemies and challenges. First zone was water, like these ponds or lakes that blocked access to certain areas, so you had to use a boat, but the water was also infested by creatures, mutants, and a group of religious fanatics, which considered technology to be evil, so were afraid of flashlights.
With no gun. Ah! Don't turn this light on here! You'll attract demons! Turn that off, I'm telling you! Lord Almighty, save us from the electricity worshippers, Satan's minions and their temptations,
So
and
you're
their
here to
machines and
torment
their
us?
weapons
Goddamn
and the
heretic!
radio and
You're
the
lucky
love
I
of
don't have
Satan's
my
own
gun.
breath.
The Lord
Electricity!
will punish you anyways. You'll see. I have nothing to talk to you about, and I don't want to look at you either. Get lost!
Second zone was a desert, with very limited safe areas where you could access a workbench, with a Mad Max wannabe faction, the Oilers, and the forest, which was my favorite. It looked stunning and it felt like a real place. Hidden away in the mountains, it had wildlife from deers to huge mutant bears, and a faction of humans that lived amongst nature, almost like Eox. But though the forest was beautiful and had an amazing atmosphere, was the most linear open world area of all of them. It was also the place most advertised in the game, but was so empty of actual content. The factions were really cool and all of them with their unique sort of stories and theme, but when it comes to gameplay, it didn't present anything new besides the way you traverse them. So all in all, the open world aspect looked amazing, but didn't really added anything to the game, and I believe so much more could have been done. That said, that doesn't mean there's no enclosed areas. There's a lot of those throughout the game. Some inside those main open world areas, others that were in entire new locations. And when you do those, like the spider cave in the forest area or the last level that you go through, which was amazing I might add, makes you realize that the game functions so much better in the metro-like areas. The tension of it all, how dark it can get, it's where your limited resources, weapons and gear durability matters the most, and where all of those systems work in perfect sync. It really makes you appreciate them more, and you can clearly tell this is what Metro is all about. The open ones were good, but not as good as they could have been. In a way, the game feels like it was experimenting with the open world, where the developers were too afraid to make it fully open and were just toying with the idea, so it feels a bit in the limbo of what it wants to be. Maybe in the next Metro game we'll get the full-blown open world treatment and just imagine open world but with actual underground areas that you can explore dynamically with no main objective, you just go there because you want to, or just a whole city to explore, both the upper level, so the city level, and the underground level. That would be cool and still have that Metro feel some people crave. But even then, going through the last level actually felt like an evolution of the previous titles. New creatures, a very harsh underground area that actually felt, well, new. It just felt underutilized as the game ends shortly after. Maybe more in DLCs? Who knows? Then we start getting to some of the other issues the game has, like character movements and control. The Metro series has always been a little janky. In a way, it added charm to it and a certain level of uniqueness to them, but being set in an open world, it shows a couple of annoyances, like our character movements just isn't as smooth as it should be, like jumping and sprinting just has that janky feel to it, and there's things like going through these little steep hills slows you down, or going through some bushes slows you down as well, which I understand realism and all of that, but just feels frustrating because you don't really feel like you climbing a hill or going through a bush. You just feel like your character was running normally and now I'm walking for some reason, which proves to be, again, annoying. I get the idea, and it works for the spider webs, which you can burn off, but this functions better for the third-person games, not first-person, or maybe just needs to be implemented better. And the other is combat. The game basically gives you two choices of how to approach the combat, guns blazing or stealth. Guns blazing works if you're playing on normal difficulty. On higher ones might prove a bit challenging due to ammo and how quick you die. But shooting is good. Weapons do feel decent, not the best, but decent. It's not gonna bother you. They don't feel like rubber, let's put it like that. There's also a decent variety of them. Even a crossbow, or this cool pneumatic gun that you can charge up and that uses steel ammunition instead of actual bullets, so it's cheaper to use. And this is your signature weapon, which you can use on top of other two random guns. Now, when fighting humans, headshots generally work best, and shooting other parts of their bodies can cause cool reactions, like stunning them or bleeding them out, which are really cool details. While on monsters, they can also be very vulnerable to headshots, but at the same time can feel a little bit spongy when shooting other parts of their bodies. But the issues are more focused around AI. Like the two previous games, it's crap, right? It sucks, especially related to the stealth mechanics. It wants you to approach the game stealthily, and there's two big components when it comes to stealth in this game: sound and light. And when it comes to light, there's a cool feature of controlling all the lights in the game, like turning off a lamp or a fireplace or even shooting them. Shooting actually creates muzzle flashes, which counts as a light source, which again is another cool detail. Day and night, of course, will influence it as well. You can actually sleep in some safe areas to move forward time and even drink vodka, because Russians, and you get this pretty cool cutscene while doing so. And you can tell if you're being seen or not by this little light bulb on your wrist, again, immersive UI. You also have decoy tools in the form of throwing cans or throwing a knife for stealthy kills. So by using these mechanics, you can skip enemies entirely, or knock them down up close, or kill them with key prompts. However, it just doesn't work right all the time. Frequently, even following the game's rules, enemies still see you and magically find you. This happened to me a couple of times. Other times, enemies just don't do anything. Other times, they just bug out so badly, it ends up being, well, laughable. I have a couple of funny moments of that. Enemies just going through objects or floating through the air. Honestly, I don't get what was going on with the AI and all these bugs.
All right. I'll check everything here, just in case. Well, doesn't look like there's any danger
Thankfully, this only happens in the first area. Seemingly the others were fine for the most part. Maybe I struck gold, but there was a lot of bugs when it comes to AI, and just poor AI in general. It's been like this since the first game, and they still haven't gone around to fix it. So please, for AI games, more effort on AI next time, because all of these issues can pull you out of the game. One moment you're so invested and immersed in the world, and then you get pulled out of it due to the AI goofing off. The monsters' AI is nothing to write home about either, and a lot of their animations is kind of janky as well and spasmic, which again breaks a little of your immersion when you're not really used to it. So more focus on this, please, so it matches with the quality of the rest of the game. And there's also other small issues when it comes to stealthing. The hitbox can sometimes be off, not showing the prompts to stealth kills or stun when it should. And I believe a lean left and right camera movement should have been a must here to properly pick corners. Dragging bodies would be a cool addition as well. I just feel like the stealth aspect of the game is lacking, feeling dated, especially considering the game pushes so hard for it. The light mechanics are cool and immersive, but it needs more tools, as the general game mechanics haven't changed much at all from the previous titles. Other problems I found is on the weapon upgrades. They're really fun to get around with. Transforming a crappy weapon to become this badass AK-47 like gun or this amazing shotgun is fun. And all of the materials really look makeshift and scrambled together, adding a lot of character to the guns you use and, well, makes sense to the world. But a lot of those mods felt too simple and straightforward. Like some were just clearly better than others, which strips a lot of choice and fun you can have modifying your weapons. Scopes were cool, I saw myself changing them quite often, but the others not so much, so there's room for some improvement there as well. The rest of the gear the same, there's not a lot of choice to begin with, but some wrist tools like the metal detector or motion detector felt useless. They had this annoying beeping sounds and barely helped at all. And to wrap it all off, I want to mention the karma or morale system. The game employs a sort of karma system, which is not clearly told to us players, but in short, there's a few groups of humans that you come across that tips the scale towards the bad or good ending. The good ending seemingly being the true ending, this being based on if you kill them or not. And that needed to be more clear. On one hand, I liked it because makes it not as gamey. Your actions will have this set consequence, this almost morale-based consequence, but it can make you feel cheated if you didn't really understood how it worked, like I did it the first time. But that bad ending, all I can say is prepare to cry edition. Overall, the game finishes on a very high note, both in story and gameplay, as I mentioned before. Metro Exodus is a great game, but also has a lot of inconsistencies when it comes to the open world. It's almost like it's having an identity crisis and not sure what it wants to be. The graphics, from the amazing effects to crappy textures to an amazing world immersion to shitty AI and some animations, and not to mention the PC port issues. So because of all of this, I really want to give the game the best score I have because I loved it, but I can't because there's issues that can be easily fixed. The third time wasn't the charm, but maybe the fourth one will be. So all of that said, I'm gonna give Metro Exodus a B. It is a good game. It is a great and amazing game at times, but all of these issues, bugs, do lessen the experience, but one that I still recommend to be played by anyone fan of FPS, survival, or even story-driven games. Or just wait till it goes on Steam with all the DLC and hopefully some of these bugs fixed. And I do hope there is yet another sequel and much needed improvements are made and no bullshit exclusive deals. So yeah guys, that's it for me for today. As always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you all again soon.
Я видел генералов, они пьют и едят нашу смерть. Их дети сходят с ума от того, что им нечего больше хотеть. А земля лежит в ржавчине, церкви смешались с золой. И если мы хотим, чтобы было куда вернуться, время вернуться домой. Этот поезд в огне, и нам не на что больше жать. Этот поезд в огне, и нам некуда больше бежать. Эта земля была нашей, пока мы не увязли в борьбе. Она умрет, если будет ничьей, пора вернуть эту землю себе.